Hello, friends. Welcome back to another of our shows. We are going to carry on with our discussion of the sources which are relevant for the study of medieval Indian history. Today, we have requested Professor Sayyid Azizuddin Husain Sahab, who teaches in Jamia, to come and speak on one of the very important sources for the study of Delhi Sultanate. Professor Azizuddin Sahab is a very prolific author. He is also a translator and administrator, and of course, a historian. He belongs to a very well-known family which has produced a number of scholars and physicians and traces its origin from Mir Sayyid Ali Hamadani, a very well-known saint of medieval period. He is a native of Jalali, a historic place which was made famous by another great historian and traveler, Ibn Battuta. Azizuddin Sahab has been holding a number of administrative positions. He was director, Rampur Raza Library. He was Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Languages at Jamia Millia. He headed the Department of History for a number of years. He had been the honorary director of Dr. Zakir Hussain and Contemporaries Archives and Portrait Gallery at Jamia Millia Islamia. He has been the coordinator of Jamia Cultural Committee, and he has also been director of Jamia's Premchand Archives and Literary Center. Professor Hussain has around 224 publications, maybe more, which include 28 books, amongst which a number of original primary Persian sources like Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, Raqaim-ul-Karaim, Kalimat-e-Aurangzeb, Tazkiratul-Umara, Kalimat-e-Tayyibat, Tarikh-e-England, they have all been edited and some of them even translated. As director of the Raza Library, he had 21 sources and works published. At least 7 of them were translated and made available into Hindi as well. At Jamia, his major areas of interest have been as varied as Mughal architecture, Sufism, and Aurangzeb. May I invite Professor Sayyid Azizuddin Husain Hamadani Sahab to speak today about Zia Barani's Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. Professor Azizuddin Husain Sahab.
Thank you, Professor Nadeem Rizvi. I'm highly grateful to the society for giving me an opportunity to speak on Ziauddin Barani's Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. In 2017, I worked on the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, which was published by Aligarh Muslim University on the occasion of 200th birth anniversary of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, because Sir Syed Ahmad Khan in 1862 edited and published the second version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. Now, as far as Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi's manuscripts are concerned, first version is concerned, so three manuscripts of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi are available in Bodleian Library, Oxford. Uh, and one manuscript which was in the personal custody of Professor Simon Digby, that was also donated to Bodleian Library, uh, Oxford. One manuscript of first version is available in Rampur Raza Library. So while I was in BA Honours third semester, so my teacher, Professor Sayyid Nurul Hasan, asked me to go through Jauddin Barni's Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. So I read this Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi in 1968 when I was not having any sense of history at all. So I just read because he asked me that you just go through Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. So since then I developed interest in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. Then my teachers, Professor K. Nizami, Professor Irfan Habib, while giving lectures in classroom, they also pointed out that Professor Simon Digby has also discovered the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. I visited the library in 1974 while I was working on Kalmat-e-Tayyibat of Aurangzeb. Then I just have a glance on that first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. But when I joined the library in 2012, so I decided to publish the facsimile copy of Jauddin Barni's Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi because naturally editing and publication of the edited text was not possible at that time. I wrote an introduction of the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi in 2012. It was uh, published and then it was released by Mr. Muhammad Hamid Ansari, uh, former Vice President of India. When I met him and requested him to release this book, so there I mentioned that though Jauddin Barni hated Shias, but now he will be angry with me that why the Sunnis didn't work on my Tarikh, why this Shia person has published my Tarikh. So he also laughed on this statement and he said that we don't know, when we will die only then we will come to know what was Barni's attitude. So since 2014 I was working on it. Then I submitted a project to uh, Sir Academy that I want to work and edit the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. It was approved and I am grateful to the former Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University that he has honorary appointed me as the Sir Fellow to work on this, and I completed this project in 2017 on the occasion of 200th birth anniversary of Sir Ahmad Khan to pay tribute to him because he did not mention or he was not aware of the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. But I questioned him that when he was working on Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi while he was Munsif at Muradabad, so Rampur is only 20 kilometers from Muradabad. Why he did not come to Raza? He didn't consult the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. Then I searched in the purchase register of Raza Library. So this first version was purchased by Raza Library in 1939. Naturally, during the period of Sir Sayyid, the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi was not available in Raza library. So then I changed my mind that no, Sir Syed didn't neglect it, but naturally it was not available there. Now, as far as uh, Barani's scholarship is concerned, naturally this family was very literate and they were having uh, persons, those who are serving in important position, in different positions of administration of the Sultanate. They belong to Bern, uh, the modern Bulandshahr, and then this family shifted to Delhi. And uh, Barani mentions in the introduction of this Tarikh that they were living in Krokhadi. So Krokhadi is near Jamia Millia Islamia and near Ashram and Maharani Bagh. And it is surprising to note that now Professor Romila Thapar is also living there. I don't know where was the house of Zawuddin Barani. He must be living somewhere in the same locality. Now the name is changed, Maharani Bagh, but Krokhadi is also very near to Maharani Bagh. Maybe he might be living near about this area. So he writes that I used to go to Krokhadi from my house to study fiqh, tafsir and other from the teachers, those who were living in Krokhadi. Now, as far as Barani's scholarship is concerned, so we find that he was a very uh, scholarly person and he was very devoted historian and he examined all the facts. But I agree with my teacher, Professor Irfan Habib, when he holds that it is perhaps best to deal with him frankly on his own terms. So naturally, this statement of my teacher, Professor Irfan Habib, is basically suits me because when I read Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, so he doesn't give permission to anybody to disagree with him. Why? Because he writes in the introduction that blood flows from my eyes. It also drips from the tip of my pen and gets imprinted on the face of the paper. So this he has explained, written and documented in the introduction of his book. Now as far as uh, his scholarship is concerned, so about his scholarship and about his knowledge of history, he has written one verse in Persian, I have translated it, that don't try to obtain eminence in this art, for it has ended with Nizami. That don't try to achieve eminence in this art, that is, he's basically saying about history. Because when he decided to write the history of this period, so he was thinking that from where he should start, whether he should start from Adam or he should start from Prophet Muhammad or he should start from the foundation of Sultanate. So he thought that if I start from Adam, so it will be a repetition and there will be no interpretation at all. Then he said that if we start from Prophet Muhammad, then he said that no, so many works have already been done, so there is no need. Then he thought that if we start from the period of uh, 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 from where Minhaj has started his Tarikh, that is Tabqat-e-Nasri. So he has written that I have read Tabqat-e-Nasri, but there are problems with Tabqat-e-Nasri, and I disagree with some of the important points which are raised by Minhaj-us-Siraj. But I do not want to disagree with him because so many ulama and other scholars are there and they will not tolerate me if I disagree with him in my tarikh. Then he decided that I should start from Ghiyasuddin Balban because Minhaj has stopped his tarikh at Nasiruddin Mahmud. But other thing which we find which is more interesting though my teacher, Professor Nizami, says that there is no difference between Tabaqat Nasri and Ziauddin Barni's Tarikh, right? No, there is difference between the two, because I'll read one passage where he explains about Kakuba's activities. So Barni writes uh, a very important uh, description of Kekubat. He writes the admonitions of the father could not prevent the king from indulgence with this encounter with these beauties, who were brought up in the shade, and by beholding these silver bodies and lovely repentance breakers, he wrapped the threads of indulgence round his neck, took up idol worship anew, and gave himself up completely to the pursuit of sensualities. He went to extremes in his pursuit of pleasure. The game of chess and dice of these moon-faced ones, their tricks during the game made him more and more enamored with them and led to a total loss of senses. Now you just see that Bogla Khan has counseled him. So Barni records that Bogla Khan's counseling didn't work. So I have read other histories also, but such type of interesting descriptions are not given by other historians. Same description we find when he talks about uh, uh, Jalaluddin Khilji. Uh, he again says about Jalaluddin Khilji, the Sultan was enamored with the ghazals of Amir Khusro and would give him enormous rewards. The sons of Hebat Khan and Nizam Kharitadar were the wine servers of the Sultan. Yaldoz was the chief of wine servers. They were so comely and had such blandishments that any ascetic and devout whose eyes fell on them would put on the Brahminical thread around the waist and turn the prayer carpet into the mat of Traven, take the pitcher of the vintner on his head, and would happily court disgrace and infancy in love of those peerless beauties. The musicians of the Sultan's assembly were Muhammad Shah Changi, who used to play the chung, and Futuha, daughter of wine seller, and Nusrat Khatun, who used to sing. Their easy female voices brought the birds down to earth from the air, and listeners lost their senses, hearts began to throb, and souls went into ruptures. The daughters of Hassan Nusrat Bibi and Bibi of Rose, who because of their extreme beauty, comeline and grace, in whichever direction they cast their enormous glance, and the courtesy they made, bewitched people with their graceful blandishments. They danced in the assembly of the Sultan. Anybody who happened to witness their dances and coquetry and enormous activity wished to sacrifice his life. So such type of description Barni has given about those sultans whose names were read in the khutbah of the Friday prayer and the khutbah of the Eid prayers. So if you compare this life of the Sultan and with the khutbah read by the ulama, so you'll find there's a difference. That is why my teacher, Professor K. Nizami, says that Barni should not have given such type of description of these sultans in his tarikh. So as far as Barni is concerned, so he's quite frank as far as these descriptions are concerned. While in Minhaj Tabaqat Nasri, we do not find such type of description. Now, as far as the first version is concerned and the second version is concerned, so in 1355, he has written the first version, and in 1357, he revised it because when Firuz Shah Tughlaq became the Sultan, so he thought that if the first version goes to the people, then they will take it to the Sultan, and he was already under pressure, and some of the ulama and the Mashayikh also, Sheikh Naziruddin Chishti, because he was holding the post of Musajjil for a long time during the period of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And during Muhammad bin Tughlaq's period, so many ulama and Mashayikh were killed on the orders of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So he revised the whole Tarikh in 2 years. And we find that we didn't edit his Tarikh from 1355 to 2017. And he revised this version within 2 years because he was considering a threat, this first version, because if it is go, so he has written that this version should not go to the people. But I don't know how this version was saved. One version is available in Rampur as a library, and three versions, first versions are available in Bodleian Library, Oxford. So as far as these two versions are concerned, so there we find there are differences, and as far as the attitude of Barani and the criticism of Barani, and on the other hand we find some new information was added in the second version because he deleted some of the information from the first version. The other thing which I found in the first version of Raza library and in the three manuscripts available in Bodleian Library, each and every sentence and every line of the manuscript is totally different. Really, it is amazing that who has done it, the transcriber has done it, or Barani himself has done it. So I'm not sure whether this is the first version and it may be the fourth version, because you can't compare two lines with these four versions of the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. And there is a need that someone should work on this text of the first version available in four manuscripts, because it is very important. Sometimes information is also different. For example, in Bodleian Library, where I compared the three manuscripts which were available there, and I kept on one table, so I found there is difference in the introduction, in the preface, and either other texts also. So I have written in my introduction that even there is problem in the four manuscripts of the first version. Now, as far as the second version is concerned, I compared, which is available in the print form, edited by Sir Ahmed Khan. There is no introduction in Sir Ahmed Khan's edited volume, and only one part of the introduction is available in the second version, edited and published by Sir Ahmed Khan in 1862. So this is not the complete introduction of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, the introduction. That is why my teacher, Professor Husain Siddiqui, he has also written an article on Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi's first version, because he discovered the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi in Rampur Raza library, but he could not compare with the three manuscripts which were available in Bodleian library. So he is also of the opinion that as far as the introductory part and the preface is concerned, page love is concerned, so we find difference between the first version and the second version, not only in the text, but even in the preface and the second version is concerned. The other thing which we find as far as the exodus toward Devir is concerned and other policies of Muhammad bin Tughlaq is concerned, difference in all the three versions, in the three manuscripts. He differs from one manuscript to the other manuscript, and he added some new information in another manuscript. There is one manuscript of the first version available in National Museum. So scholars are of the opinion that it might be the personal copy of Azizuddin Barani which is available, because I've read somewhere that Nawab of Tonk, when he attacked Bulandshahr along with the British army, so he has looted this manuscript from Bulandshahr, and he had taken this manuscript to Tonk. When Maulana Azad this established National Museum. So he brought some of the manuscripts from Tonks Library to National Museum, and now that manuscript of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi first version is available in National Museum, but most of the pages of this manuscript are missing. But some historians have given opinion that it could be the personal copy of Ziauddin Barni, how it was copied by others in the as far as the first version is concerned. The other interesting things are relating to the exodus toward Devgir, and so we find that Barni has also written that it was a general order and all the people shifted to Devgir or Daulatabad, especially the ulama and mashayikh. But I have questioned this evidence of Ziauddin Barni while writing my introduction of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, that Barni and Sheikh Nasiruddin uh, Chirag Delhi never shifted from Delhi. So how Barni is writing this thing that all people shifted from Delhi to Daulatabad or Devgir. He was living in Delhi and he never shifted from Delhi at any point of time. So there are certain things which can be questioned as far as Barni's statements are concerned. That is why we find that there is a need to make an uh, analysis of the two versions as far as first version and second version, and his statements which are recorded by Barni in two versions of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. On the other hand, he mentions about my town also, Jalali, that Ghasuddin Balban had built a mosque and a fort in Jalali, and he has given a description that Balban had taken interest in the construction of four forts in the region of Doab, Jalali, Kampul, Bhojpur, and Patiali. But as far as other forts are concerned, they don't exist today. As far as Jalali's fort is concerned, that also doesn't exist today. But as far as this mosque is concerned, it is existing, and we find the inscription of Ghasuddin Balban, and it was renovated by Mughal Emperor Akbar. So all this information is very important because now if you see the architecture of the mosque or the building of the mosque, so it doesn't belong to the Sultanate period, but the statement of Barni as well as the inscription of Ghasuddin Tughlaq proves that it was built during Sultanate period, but it was totally renovated by Akbar. So there is a need to make an analysis of all the statements recorded by Ziauddin Barni in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, market control and everything, the details which he has given. For example, he has given the details of these markets in Mehroli. uh, I tried to locate those places like Manda Darwaza and other places where Alauddin Khilji established this market and built a building. But today those markets, those places do not exist because it was all demolished. Few parts of Raipatora are existing, but rest of the part of Old Delhi, that is Mehrauli, was totally demolished. So, and other sarais were also there in Mehrauli, where these Karwan, they were coming and they were keeping their grain and everything there, and then it was supplied to the market. So this description Barni has given. I also consulted my colleague, Professor Narayani Gupta, that do you have any idea where this sarai was located? So he said that this sarai was located in
We have lost the connection, and Let us wait for some time. Can we? We will try to connect him through the phone if possible. Let us try to connect him, if possible, by phone. Can we connect him by phone, please? Let us try to. We will just wait for 5 minutes for him to connect back. I think he was giving us much relevant information as far as the various recensions of the Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi are concerned. Not only the various recensions, but also the various manuscripts, versions of the manuscript which survive. It's a fascinating work which Professor Azizuddin Husain has done. I hope that he's able to reconnect with us so that he may be able to tell us about what all he discovered when he tried to compare the various versions of the well, we can also, in the meantime, that he tries to connect back, let us discuss something about our future programs. Uh, uh, we have a large number of others. For example, we have on Sunday Dr. Manakia, who will be speaking on Persianate selves. And then Professor Farhat Hassan. Farhat Hassan would be there on 27th of November. Literacy and the shaping of the manuscript culture, problems in reading of Mughal sources. And I would request all the students who are studying history to please attend this lecture. It's a very relevant topic which Professor Farhat Hassan has taken up. That will be followed by a lecture on 29th of November by Corinne Lefebvre. Dr. Corinne Lefebvre is in Paris. Recently, her book on Jahangir has been published last year, but unfortunately for us, it is in French, and I am told by Dr. Lefebvre that it is being translated into English, but it will take some time. She would be speaking to us on Islam and Empire in India, the Padshah's sacred authority. So possibly what I understand by her theme, probably she would be taking up the sovereignty as propounded by Jahangir. She would also be dealing with certain topics of religious pluralism practiced by the Mughals. Then on 4th of December, we will have Professor Najaf Haider on the very important non-Persian text Ardh Kathanak, which is a biography of a merchant, Banarsi Das. It's a crucially important source, and Professor Najaf Haider would be speaking on that on 4th of December. After Najaf, we will have Francesca Orsini before the Hindi-Urdu divide. That would be a lecture which would be dealing with the development of Hindavi and the Rekhta. On 11th of December, we will have Supriya Gandhi, and she will be speaking on comparative method of Dara Shiko's Majmaul Bahrain. 13th of December, we will have Ebakosh, the famous art historian who has contributed much to our understanding of Mughal architecture. She will be speaking on a topic, Agra as it was, new findings, the garden of Princess Jahanara. On 18th of December, we will have Dr. Dan Sheffield. And Dr. Dan Sheffield would be speaking on comparative religion in early modern India, the school of doctrines, that is Dabistan-e-Mazahib, in a historical perspective. On 20th of December, we will have a lecture by Professor Sajjad Rizvi, and he will be speaking upon transnational Shia networks before colonialism. On 27th December, we will once again have Dr. Catherine Schofield, who has already delivered a lecture for us, and she will be speaking on Mughals, music, and films. And then, of course, we will go on to the next year. Well, Aziz Saab is back. So, once again, welcome, Aziz Bhai. Please carry on.
Yes, I'm sorry because this net is not working very well. So, historians like Professor Ishwar Prasad and others, those who have written history of medieval India, based on the second version, there is a need to re-examine both the versions. And even in the first version, three manuscripts, only then we will be able to re-examine it, and the policies adopted by Sultan Alauddin Khilji, policies adopted by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, and other sultans of Delhi, we will be able to do the justice. Because while I was going through these both the texts, so I found lot of information, because my teacher, Professor Hussain Siddiqui, used to tell me that whenever I used to read the text of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, I found new information. So this he was saying about the second version which was available in Aligarh. At that time, first version was not available. So there is a need for the study, deep study of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, because every line given by Barani is very important. The way he has said and the way he has explained, like Khusro Khan's policies and other things which was described by Barani, it is totally different by, for example, by Shamsiraj Afif and other historians, or even his predecessor, Minhajus Siraj. So Barani interprets, examines Professor Muhammad Habib, objects whether he was having all the data with him or he was writing Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi on the basis of his memory. But he was collecting data while he was young from his grandparents, from his maternal grandfather, from his grandfather and uncle and others also. At the same time, Kabiruddin has also compiled, which is not available today, the Fatanamas of Sultan Alauddin Khilji. Barani mentions in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi that I have consulted Fatanamas which were compiled by Kabiruddin, and other things which were described by Ziauddin Barani in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. He also gives a list of his sources. Uh, 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 Today we call it oral history. Barani did it in the 13th century by taking the interviews And Barani writes in the introductory part of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi that when I decided that I should start from Ghasuddin Balban, but I was not alive during that period. I was I was not having any information. So I interviewed the ulama, mashayikh, and the umara, those who had served Balban, but they have no sense of history. So he has quoted one ayah from the Quran that if you don't read history, so you will not be able to understand the future. So how these umara, how these ulama and the mashayikh, those who are not aware of the history of 50 years, so how they will be able to do justice with their positions which they are holding. So he had collected these all data as well as the market control policy of Alauddin Khilji. The data he has provided, the details he has provided, naturally this can't be done on the basis of memory. He must have taken notes which he has written during the period of while he was giving the compiling Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. The same thing he has written about the projects of Muhammad bin Tughlaq that he was collecting. The other debate which was raised by Professor Peter Hardy and Professor Nizami, that whether he has written Fatawai Jahandari first or Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi first. So they differed with each other. But as far as my opinion is concerned, he has written Fatawai Jahandari first because at that time he was young. We do not find any desperation in his writings. But he was compiling Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi only when he was ousted from the position of Musajjal, which he was holding during the period of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He has written 5 works during his lifetime. The last work which he has written is Naat-e-Muhammadi. Naat-e-Muhammadi's only manuscript is available in Raza Library, Rampur, and I have published Naat-e-Muhammadi so that it should be available to all scholars and historians so that they can study. But when I read Naat-e-Muhammadi, so I found lot of difference between his interpretations which he had given in Fatawai Jahandari, which he had given in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. So in Naat-e-Muhammadi, he is totally a changed man. He is giving something else in Naat-e-Muhammadi. In Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi and Fatawai Jahandari, for example, he doesn't talk about Aligarh. But in Naat-e-Muhammadi, he is talking about Aligarh also. And he is totally disillusioned with this monarchical system. While in Fatawai Jahandari and Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, he says that no, we can't go on the principles of Islamic State that was run by Prophet Muhammad and Khulafai Rashidin. And we have to follow these monarchical principles of the period of monarchy prevailing in Persia. But here he is saying that all those were tyrants. All those were tyrants. And the introduction of the first version, where he says, discuss about 4 caliphs and given details about the 4 caliphs. When he comes to 4th caliph, Ali, so there he says that Muawiyah didn't agree with Ali's caliphate, he didn't do back and revolted against Ali. I have read so many scholars who have written on this question of caliphate and especially the dispute between Ali and Muawiyah. Nobody has written or used this word Baghawat or the revolt against Ali by any alim or by any scholar. It is Barani who has given this statement in the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi's introduction. Same attitude we find in Naat-e-Muhammadi, that he is giving all those details, and he says that the Umayyad government and the Abbasid government were based on tyrannical principles, and the all powers were centered under their control. So he is disagreeing with those things what he has said in Fatwa Jahandari and Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. So that is why my request is that when we write on medieval Indian history now, from the period of Balban up to the period of Firoz Shah Tolak, so there is a need to study Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi's two versions, Fatwa Jahandari and Nat Muhammadi, because now Nat Muhammadi is printed and available in all libraries. Now that problem is not there, that one should go to Rampur and only then he will be able to do, uh, uh, he can only be able to read that manuscript. So uh, there is a need to re-examine and rewrite medieval Indian history on the basis of the first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, second version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, and Nat Muhammadi, written by Ziauddin Barani. Now, as far as Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi is concerned, I will submit that there is no parallel of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi as far as Sultanate period concerned, and especially during the Mughal period, like Akbarnama and Ain Akbari. I have also read both Akbarnama and Ain Akbari, but uh, I found Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi very interesting, and you will find that type of detail and the way he is explained in a simple Persian. Abul Fazl's Persian is very difficult to understand, but as far as Barani's Persian is concerned, it's very simple, and he is explaining all those policies. For example, he confesses that during Muhammad bin Tughlaq period, when he was killing ulama and mashayikh and others, so we didn't have courage to submit to Muhammad bin Tughlaq that you are not following the Islamic law, because you can't kill people on such type of pleas and such type of things. So Barani is very clear, unlike Abul Fazl. So he is also feeling that he could not submit it to Muhammad bin Tughlaq, though he was holding an important position. The other importance of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi is, second version is that he is giving important information of the monuments constructed during the period of Sultan Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. All the details and all the details are there in the second version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. Otherwise, Tabaqat Nasri and other historians, they do not give those details, and especially the personal life of the Salatin, which he has discussed and he has given information in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, is very important. So I admire Ziauddin Barani like anything, and though he was the murid of Nizamuddin Auliya, but we find that he did not take those lessons from the from his sheikh, because he was having an aristocratic mind. The language he uses, but as far as his friends are concerned, he discusses in the introduction. So he was having friendship with Amir Khusro, the eminent poet of Sultanate period and well-recognized poet of medieval period. And even today, the position of Khusro is very important in the literary field. Then the other friend was Hassan Sizzi, who has compiled Nizamuddin Auliya's Malfuzat Fawaidul Fat. And Barani writes that sometimes they used to sit for hours together and discussing different aspects. But when he left for Daulatabad, so he is not getting that opportunity. So he also discusses about his association with Amir Khusro and Hassan Sizzi. So as far as his friends are concerned, they were also very talented, and they have also done remarkable service in different areas, So he was, but when he was removed from his position after the death of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, so he resigned from that position and started living in the area near the Dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya. And he died there and he was buried there near the Bazar of Amir Khusro. There was very small inscription on his Bazar, Bazar Zai Barani, only it was written. But when I was working on Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, then I contacted Khwaja Sayyid Muhammad Nizami, the Sajjada Nashin of the Dargah, that I am ready to prepare a detailed inscription of Ziauddin Barani, if you permit me, so that can be placed on the grave of Ziauddin Barani. So he permitted me, and I have written that the text of the inscription of the grave of Ziauddin Barani. So no, this is a different inscription which is now placed on the grave of Ziauddin Barani. There I have mentioned the date of death and year of his birth, as well as the verse which he has written during his period. So all details are there in the inscription of Ziauddin Barani's grave. So now the people visiting the Dargah of Nizamuddin Auliya, they can also have a look on the grave of this eminent historian of medieval period. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Azizuddin Husain Saab. It was really a pleasure getting information which usually we don't get in the general books as far as Zia Barani is concerned. You told us about the various recensions of Zia Barani, his Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, as well as the various surviving manuscripts of the first version of the Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. I mean, these are the nuanced details which are generally missed by almost most of the historians who are today working on medieval India. Now, if you allow me, then we can take up certain questions. For example, there is a question by Lakshmi Kant Mishra. What is new in your assertions from that of Khaliq Ahmad Nizami's articulation in regard to historiography of the period you are talking about? How do you differ from what Nizami
No, I
said?
have discussed all those points in my introduction, and Professor K. Nizami's article on, and the way he has discussed. So in most of the points, I didn't agree. For example, these two descriptions of Ziauddin Barani, which he has given about Kaqabat and Jalaluddin Khilji. So Professor K. Nizami has written that no, Barani should have abided giving this information about these two sultans, and other information which was given by Ziauddin Barani. Professor K. Nizami has also differed with Ziauddin Barani, but I have discussed all those points in detail in my introduction and concluded that what Professor K. Nizami is saying is not correct, because if we examine both the versions of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, so we will have a new picture of the Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. Because when Professor K. Nizami was writing on the historiography of Sultanate period, and especially writing on Ziauddin Barani, so the first version was not available to him. So whatever he has written is based on the second version edited by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, the type of manuscripts which you have seen, which were actually studied much after Professor Nizami has written his books and articles. So
Yes,
naturally,
yes,
they don't find
yes,
reflection there in Nizami
yes,
Saab's
yes,
writing.
yes.
Now, there are some other questions. For example, there is one question by Nilanjan Sarkar.
Mhm.
Please, could the professor explain why he believes that, and within inverted commas, there is no desperation in the fatwa?
Fatwa Jahandari.
Yeah.
In Fatwa Jahandari.
Yes.
No, no. No, as far as Fatwa Jahandari is concerned, so he wrote in while he was young. He was not disillusioned. But as far as Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi is concerned, this is the period when he was uh, compiling Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, when he was removed uh, from his position and he was jailed in the Bhatner fort. So there is difference if you just compare Fatwa Jahandari and Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. So you'll find a lot of difference in Barani's explanation. In Fatwa Jahandari, you will find he is stable. He is giving his opinion frankly. There is no desperation. But as far as this Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi is concerned, for example, the first statement which I read, that blood drips from my pen. Such type of statements we do not find in Fatwa Jahandari. He is just explaining on the basis in the light of Fatwa literature and on the rules Zawabit prepared during the Sultanate period. So there is difference if you read both the texts. So the psyche of Barani is totally different if you read from the lines of both the sources, Fatwa Jahandari and Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi.
There is one question from Intact Kashmir. Uh, how does Barani approach the Shia-Sunni relationship under the Tughlaqs?
As far as Barani's opinion about Shias is concerned, he said that they should not be allowed to stay in Sultanate. And he asked that it is the duty of the Sultan that no non-Sunni Muslim should be allowed in the periphery of the Sultanate. Secondly, while he was discussing about history in the introduction of his first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, he says that as far as history is concerned, so only it is the right and privilege of the Sunni Muslims to read and write history. He doesn't give permission to non-Sunni Muslims to write history at all.
Right, sir. Nilanjan Sarkar is putting up another question to you.
Yes.
Uh, uh, Probably, I mean, you think that Fatawa was written before the Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, but
Yes.
Nilanjan says that his own analysis shows that the Fatawa was written after the Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi had been written.
No, my point is that at that moment of time, because he was compiling Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, because he thought that he will get reward on this Tarikh, and he's very also expecting
Mhm.
a good reward on Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. But as far as Fatwa Jahandari is concerned, now nobody is going to give any reward. When he has written Fatwa Jahandari, so he wanted, or he might have shown it to Muhammad bin Tughlaq that he has compiled this Fatwa Jahandari because Muhammad bin Tughlaq's bent of mind, he was also searching on the Fatwa literature. He was also working and he was also questioning so many aspects of Islam and he was also discussing all those aspects. So Fatwa Jahandari was written much earlier than the Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi because we find stability. There is no confusion. There is no frustration in the writing if you examine all the lines of Fatwa Jahandari. But in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, you will find sometimes he is frustrated. Sometimes he creates problem himself. He says that why I am alive when nobody is listening to me, when nobody is caring to me. So why he is basically distributed all his wealth, all cloths, every belongings to the people. So naturally, that was the height of his frustration when he was living in the vicinity of the Dargah of Nizamuddin Aulia. And while he was writing Fatawai Jahandari, so you will not find such type of statements in Fatawai Jahandari.
But sir, don't you think that Fatawa-e-Jahadari being a very ideal theoretical work,
Yes, yes,
whereas
yes, yes.
Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi is a very practical description of what is happening, and doesn't
Yes.
sometimes in the Fatawa, Barani takes ideal positions what he fancies that actual history should have been.
No, no. I'll give you one example. In Fatawai Jahandari, he doesn't disagree with Imam Abu Hanifa on Jazia. But in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, he disagrees with Imam Abu Hanifa also. And other points also, as I discussed that monarchical institution is concerned. In Fatawai Jahandari and in Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, he is supporting a monarchical institution. But he has written Nate Muhammadi at the fag end of his life. He is disagreeing with monarchical system at all. So the same we find because that is the last book of Barani. So he is disagreeing with Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi as well as with Fatawai Jahandari as far as the monarchical system is concerned.
Fine, sir. I mean, there is another question from Nilanjan Sarkar.
Okay,
Nilanjan, as you know, is working on the Sultanate sources and all. And
okay. Uh,
so Nilanjan asks, where does Baramika fit into
uh,
Barney's series of texts?
Pardon?
Where does where would you place this text
Uh,
in
uh,
Barney's chronology?
Barney's chronology.
Yeah.
Series of text. Where it has the now, as far as this text is concerned, Tarikh-i-Baramaka, he also discussed in his introduction, first version of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. Either he translated it or he read it. I am not aware of it.
Well, Nilanjan says that in the Fatawa,
Huh,
Barni says, Risa karde am tanujan ra,
huh,
and also Chegoyam hal khud dar pish mardum gunahgaran.
huh,
These sound very desperate to me. So he, in
huh.
fact, Nilanjan is trying to contradict you by saying that even in Fatawa, he appears to be desperate.
No, no. In Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, there is lot of desperation from
Hmm.
Balban's period down to the first few years of Firoz Shah Tughlaq.
Hmm. Well, I would say I would request.
And naturally, it is open to debate.
Nini,
I'm not
I would
giving.
request Nilanjan. I mean, we have been requesting him since long that
Uh,
now he should come up with his work. We are really
of
waiting
course,
for
yes,
it to come out.
yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
mm, I think there are hardly any other questions. So let me uh, put a few of mine, or you may say some comments, whatever. I mean,
Okay.
first of all, let me start by thanking you once again that you tried to tell us about the differences between the four manuscripts of the first version of
Yes.
Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi.
Mm.
Uh, mm, uh, in fact, it is very good for the students of history to learn that out of these four versions,
Mm.
one version is in India in Raza Library, the other three
Mm.
are at Bodleian,
Yes.
uh, and I hope that you would carry on with your researches, or someone else would take up and give a detailed, analysis of all these
Yes. Yes.
texts which
Yes.
are there. I think
Yes.
that is very, very necessary.
Yes.
One thing which I understood from your lecture, I mean, so far what we had done at Aligarh is that we tried to compare Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi with Fatawa-e-Jahandari. In fact, in a number of lectures and sometimes in writing also, Professor Irfan Habib has also dealt with this issue, the difference
Yes,
between Fatawa-e-Jahandari
yes,
and Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. But you rightly pointed out that we should also compare Nate Muhammadi also
yes,
along with the.
yes, yes,
So I
yes,
hope
yes,
that there would be some scholar at some point of time who would
yes,
take all the three texts together, Nate
yes,
Muhammadi, Fatawa-e
mm,
Jahandari, as well as the various versions of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi to come out
mm,
with a detailed work on Zia Barni.
yes,
Uh, uh, Professor, I have a very basic question,
mm,
which may interest the students of history in general who are studying medieval Indian history. I would like to ask you that the Arab historiography takes into account the people's history
mm,
in a more, it's more perceptive to the people's history than the
yes,
Persian historiography, which is much
mm,
more elitist.
yes,
Where would you place Zia Barni in this historical, this
mm,
thing? Whether you would, he talks about that Delhi became Viran because the elites had
right,
disappeared. He's
yes,
writing
yes,
about elites.
yes,
Then,
yes.
on the other hand, there are historians who say that he's trying to follow the Arab type of
Mm.
historical method. How would you say? How would you analyze that?
No, I'll place him in Persian historiography
Persian.
because totally his bent of mind like that. But as far as his attitude in Nate Muhammadi is concerned, that is
But then
totally
he
fair.
discusses
Ah,
the market control measures,
yes,
the other
yes,
measures which
yes,
are concerned with the
yes, yes,
public.
yes, yes. But as far as Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi is concerned, totally Persian historiography trend he follows.
Mhm.
Mm.
Uh, as you rightly pointed out, that Barani had a lot of friends who are also who have also written down histories. For example, Amir
Mm.
Khusro.
Yes, yes,
Uh, he was a
yes,
friend. But there is
yes.
so much difference in the approach of both Zia Barni and Amir Khusro in how they tackle history and how they interpret the facts which happened before them.
Now, as far as difference between Khusro and Barni is concerned, is a difficult question because I have not compared these historical works of Amir Khusro with Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. It also requires a deep study of both the sources, Khusro's works as well as Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi. We haven't done much as far as though Aligarh's contribution is remarkable, but much has been left uh, to be done.
In
There
fact,
is,
as far as Sultanate history is concerned, there is much which has
yes,
been to be done. And
yes, yes,
uh,
yes,
uh, uh,
yes,
I
yes,
hope that some of the new generation historians
yes,
do
yes, yes,
take up because we have
yes,
concentrated much more on the Mughals rather
yes, right.
than on the
Mm.
Sultanate sources.
Uh,
Most of the Sultanate sources are also not available to the general public.
yes,
Not
yes, yes,
all of them have been
yes,
translated.
yes. No,
Just
you
the last
rightly said.
point, before we
You
close.
rightly said that
Yeah,
now there is a need to study Barni in the light of Fatawai Jahandari, Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi, and Nate Muhammadi. Only
right,
then we will be able to do justice with Ziauddin Barni and medieval Indian history.
right. Now, Professor Hussain, you pointed out in the last part of your lecture that you were able to put up that epitaph
Hmm.
on the grave of Zia Barni.
Ah,
Uh,
yes.
there was a very small text which was written on the grave
Ali.
to identify it, that this is the grave of Zia Barni. How far authentic was that earlier version? How can you, on very safe grounds, actually say Okay, this is the grave. What evidence is?
No, this family, the family of the Sajjada Nashins of the Dargah Hazrat Nizamuddin Awliya, is having an old map of the Dargah and the grave of the eminent scholars. So on the basis of that, in that map, it is written that this is the grave of Ziauddin Barani and this is the grave of Shams Raj Afif. His grave is also there. Both
Yes. Yeah.
the authors of Tarikh-i-FiruzShahi are there in the campus. So that map helps us and other scholars, those who have written on tafsir and other aspects of Islam, their graves are also there and inscriptions are not there, but that map helps us to
Right, sir.
identify them.
So actually, I would take you on your word because when I visited the grave, that old inscription was there,
Yes.
and that old inscription was written in a way that it appeared that it had not been written during the Sultanate period. It was inscribed much later.
Yes.
So I took it to be an attribution rather than a fact. But you being a historian who has worked on Zia Barani, if you attest to that, I'll rest my case and go with you. Professor Azizuddin Husain Saab, thanks a lot
Thank you very much. Thank
for
you.
enlightening us today. And I hope that in future also you will cooperate with us.
Of course. Of course.
Keep writing, sir. Keep writing. Keep translating the sources and try to publish more and more of them. And one more little khwahish, which I made to you in private, but now I'm making it public. You sit on a treasure at Jalali. Please do something regarding that before it disappears.
Okay,
Thank
I'll do
you.
that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you.
Shagufta, you have to say something.
No, thank you. I just wanted to thank you and Professor Hussain and very like lovely, absolutely wonderful conversation despite the tech errors. I think we've managed to come past that. So next time when Professor Hussain is here with us, we expect that it'll be absolutely flawless conversation and look forward to that, sir. And thank you so very much for joining us and supporting us.
Thank you
Have a
very much.
great
Thank
evening,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
I hope